Hello, friends, and welcome back to Seniors Can We Talk with Polly Lemire, Tiny Habits Coach, and Linda Prio, podcast host of Aging in Place Strategies and Answers. And we're glad you're back with us today. And we want you to pull up a chair and have a seat at the table, grab your favorite beverage, and get prepared to stroll along with Polly and I as we start talking about a topic that I found on her website. So I'm going to dive right in with something you wrote, Polly, to get us focused
Okay,
on our
okay.
discussion today. I don't know if you've ever thought this before, and listeners, but I have. Did I felt like there's something more to life after 65, or life after retirement, or life after your kids are gone, or life after even the death of a spouse or a partner. Maybe even as you have seen friends that you have known for a long time, changes in those relationships with moves, or maybe even their passing, that you wake up and you just feel a little lost, sort of like you've lost your rudder, but you know you want your environment or your life or your focus to get back into some, you know, so that it's not so blurry. But it's kind of hard. And so this that you said on your website, thriveafter65.com. What are you doing? The dance over there on me?
Well, yeah, there I am. And I'm back.
Technology.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like there's more to life after 65, but you're not sure how to tap into it? And today, I'm just going to tell you that we don't have a corner on the market, but we certainly have some tools and some tips and some strategies for you that can help us get started on this discussion. So, Polly on her website says, imagine you're waking up feeling that you want to do something meaningful or exciting, maybe even learn a new hobby or plan a trip. But how are you going to get there? So that's what we're going to be talking about today, friends.
In other
Tips.
words, setting intentions,
Oh, yes, setting an intention,
big and small.
big and small. All right, so now we've taken the lid off the can, and there's a lot of space to fill in this conversation because it's just not that simple. And in my work in the senior market and in yours in your classes, sometimes people say, I just feel lost, or every day looks like
The
yesterday.
same. I used to
Yes.
call it the COVID syndrome, where every day looks the same because you're just repeating the same behaviors. A lot of it, let's just go back to the very beginning of how we start our day, because that, in a way, sets the tone for the day. So I almost hesitate to ask this because I know you, Linda. Linda, how do you start your day?
Well, thanks for asking, Polly. I Polly's laughing because she knows that I'm very task oriented. So the before, and you and listeners, you've heard me say this before, is that I believe in self-care, and self-care is like putting gold coins into my bank account, so that if there would need to be a huge deposit, I would have something in that account. So I actually set my alarm for 5:30, and then I make myself get up whether I like it or not, whether I've slept well or not. And what is dangling in my mind is that cup of coffee that I get to have after I do my walk. Nope, I will not allow myself one sip. I am out the door. And then as I'm walking and I'm barely, and I'm struggling to wake up, I'm thinking, but when I get home, I get to have my cup of coffee. So I hate to tell you that it's pretty blah, but that's pretty much how I start my day. And it's my inspiration for getting up because I know that even if I don't feel like getting up, I will have my coffee. So that's my reason for getting up, whether I've had a good night's sleep or not.
So now for the rest of us who do not have self-discipline
Yeah, how do
and
you
who are
wake?
not as ordered,
How do you you get it?
and
What
not
gets
as
you out of
supportive
bed?
as Linda is. There are other ways of getting up, even if you're not as disciplined. And my way of getting up, I'm one of these people who naturally gets up every morning, but I am not zooming out the door with all of this heavy duty exercise stuff. Instead, my way of getting up in the morning is to, when actually it is a tiny habit. One of the first ones I ever learned is that when I put my feet on the floor, I will stand up and say, today is going to be a great day. Because if I do that, I'm setting an intention in my brain, looking so that it will be looking for things out there in my environment as I go through the day that are positive and that are interesting and exciting and good and good for me and fun. So I'm not as disciplined as Linda. Now I do, but and also I guess I should add. So what I do, I still get the exercises and those things done, but not having all of that willpower, I use tiny habits instead. And we can talk about more. I'm sure a lot of you have heard about it just from our other conversations. But anyway, what I wanted to share with Linda was that when I do that, it's a start to setting up a day with intention instead of letting the day just roll on by like another wave in the ocean where everything is the same. And I think for most of us who are seniors, the thing we want to avoid is what the brain, what we call in neuroscience, habituation, where
Right.
when everything is the same, it all becomes wallpaper and life becomes very dreary and very dull indeed. So whether it's Linda's way of hopping out of bed and going and doing all your exercises with lots of self-discipline, or simply getting out of bed and setting an intention for the day. There's two different ways that I do mine. One is today's going to be a great day, or sometimes I'll get up and say something amazing is going to happen today. And it might be just a little flower, a ray of sunshine, a smile on someone's face. But at the end of the day, I know that I will come back and I will realize that some amazing things have happened.
So, do you write this down or do you just say it
Nope,
once?
it's a habit.
Okay,
Just
so
like your habit is jumping out of bed and putting on your running shoes, my habit is getting out of bed and saying, today's going to be a great day, or something awesome is going to happen today.
and I never really thought about that, Polly, but I'm willing to give it a go because I think it is important if I want to have a great day that doesn't look like the other days of the week, that having that intention or that purpose is something that
Mm-hmm,
my brain would like
mm-hmm.
to put into place because the brain is a muscle and it's supposed to be used. And as you've told us before, that if we don't have something to focus on, our brains will take us down a negative path. And then also we will start problem solving on things that aren't really problems, and then we're going to have more problems. So I like that, setting that intention for the day and
Mm-hmm.
then taking a moment in the evening before bed to evaluate the amazing things that happen. And certainly
Right.
they weren't, gold bars falling into your hands. They weren't
But
financial.
I think what it does is it makes you live more mindfully
Mhm.
because you're more aware of the small moments of the day where there's peace and happiness and satisfaction and little small joys rather than every day being a gray, brown, same kind of day. And so on one hand, it's a small thing that you do, but it also ties into what we were talking about earlier, Linda. You were talking about how important it is when you are retired to tie your life also or ground your life also in the world of large intentions too.
Yes. And I probably live 98% of my life without really being intentional about it. I had tasks to do, I had work to do, I had the to-do list, But as you retire and the to-do list isn't as great, I mean, there's always something on it, let's just be honest. But the bigger picture is really where I knew that if I did not approach retirement with some form of intentional thinking, I probably wouldn't be very happy in that moment. And so as I was working up to my retirement, which, I'm part time, partly retired, I began to notice that folks in the military call it a mission, you know, and my son was in the military. And I also had a lady in a group, in a small group, and her husband was in the military, and he was part of a men's group, faith, family, and fellowship. And those guys got up at 4:30 in the morning. So I figure 5:30 is a sleep in for them. But it showed me that when you set an intention, or when you want to live with intention, then you adjust things around to make that happen, right? So these guys get up and I said, "Excuse me, I have a question about your folks. Do they that participate in this F3 group?" I said, "Do they do that during the winter?" And they always meet usually in a location, sometimes around a flagpole or whatever. And she said, "In the military, there's no bad weather. There's only bad gear that you haven't prepared, and you're only wearing bad gear." And thoughts like that are mind blowing to me. I never heard somebody talk like that.
Boy, we could do a whole, that's a good one to do a whole
Yeah, I
one
just
of
never
ours.
I never heard anybody talk like that.
Yeah.
But what intentional living means to me is that I'm looking at my life, I'm looking at my skill set, I'm looking at my natural gifts. I am looking at things that I've developed over my time in the
Mhm.
workforce and in my life, and how can I deploy those gifts, or how can I, like, I love classical music, I love ballet, I love the arts. How can I pull that into my life intentionally and start enjoying those things in a more intentional way? So, beliefs, values, skills, assets, and fewer excuses, because
Mhm.
I can be creative when it comes to excuses. There's like, I can do it. But I found that my productivity increased, and that my joy increased because I was putting things in there that were more intentional for me and things that
Yeah.
I enjoyed. Doesn't mean I can't enjoy things outside that picture, but for me, it was being intentional about, what do I like? What do I like to do? And I think that's definitely part of this conversation. Don't
So
you?
what I'm hearing you say then is that really one of the big secrets to retirement is not to allow your days to just drift by, but to start following things. The big picture would be following things and doing them consciously, making conscious choices
Mm-hmm.
instead of being somebody who's just tossed around by whatever comes up in the day. And
Yes.
that is a big secret to successful retirement for sure. So one of the ways to start doing that is to by simply start setting some small intentions at the beginning of the day.
Okay.
And how you set the day up is really, really important because from a neuroscience point of view, what you're doing, your brain has it has an appointment secretary. It is the secretary that lets all the different, how would I say, all the different forms of input come into your mind or your brain, and it decides which ones the brain should really focus on or pay attention to. For instance, if at this very moment, Linda, you are equally aware of the light coming in from the window as the feeling of your feet on the floor, as you are aware of your breathing and what you're going to say next and where your script is or your pencils and papers on the desk, you'd go nuts because you couldn't focus on anything, be too much coming in at the same time.
Yes.
Well, somebody in your brain has to make up their mind about which things, and it all goes on. It's based on your values and what's important. Just the intentionality that you spoke of earlier. So when something's really important to you, your brain has this little attention device. It's called the reticular activating system,
Ooh, that's
and
a
it's
big word.
programmable. It is you can program it. And the sad thing, we were never given instructions about how to run these things. But anyway,
No, we weren't. Or I don't feel like I was aware in
yeah.
my life and time.
Well, and this really, most of this knowledge has only been available in the last 10 or 15 years, I would say. And certainly not available generally to the public until I would say the last 10 years. And so, as far as the reticular activating system, it simply is a seeking device, and it seeks things based on what's important to you. And an example would be, think of the last time you bought a new car, whether
Hmm.
it was a secondhand car or firsthand. And all of a sudden, on every road that you drove, you saw the very same car.
Yes, that's
Why?
happened to me before.
Because it's really important to you. Another example would be you say you're at a cocktail party or a networking event, and all of a sudden you hear all the way across the room from somebody else something about they're going on vacation to the same place that you want to go. And your reticular activating system picked that out of all the other conversations.
Interesting.
So the thing is, it looks for things based on what's really important.
You know, Polly, you said something very important just a second or two ago, and it was about the fact that some of this neuroscience and research really has not come into being for the general public's knowledge until about 10 to 15 years ago. And yet you've spent a lifetime really searching after answers and strategies and tips that can really help people. And some folks don't know that your daughter is a certified Tony Robbins coach.
Well, obviously, all of this interest in personal development it runs in the family, and the apple doesn't fall from the tree. Yes, my daughter
Absolutely.
Amy has done quite a bit of things with Tony Robbins. And you can't hang out in the field of personal development without instantly being aware of the importance of what I would call conscious living.
Okay, so
That at any point in time, we have a choice. We have a choice to become a victim, or a choice to become intentional with our living, making conscious choices. And so, what I've heard you talking about is the importance of intentional living when it comes to, having goals. I mean, it doesn't mean having lofty big goals, but finding interests, following up on social activities, being a lifelong learner in whatever subject you choose, but having things that you want to pursue. And in order to do that, you need to have intention. It means you have to make a choice.
yes,
Um,
so you're right
and so
because
that's the big picture.
yeah, because otherwise every day is going to be like a vanilla day for me. And I
Exactly.
and I'm just saying from my own self that I know it's easy for me to get thrown off course. It's easy for me to not focus on what I want to do for myself because I'll just throw out this card too because I think it's relevant. We've been daughters, we've been sisters. Polly has three sisters. I've never been a sister, but we have expectations that other people want us to meet, and now it's our
Mhm.
time. What do I want in this season of life? And I don't mind vanilla ice cream, but I don't want to have it every day. So that's why this is so important. And I was not very aware of Tony Robbins, so I was listening to a podcast. And one of the things he said is, what we do here and what he does is similar in that we're giving our knowledge, our strategies and tips that can really be helpful so that you don't have to spend a lot of time having a workshop or following this particular person or this particular person. We're taking the nuggets from everything. So I love that you said that you started your day with an intention, and I decided to try it the other day because I thought, what have I got to lose? I'm going to be Polly today, and I'm going to start with an intention, and it got my brain
Okay.
going. And I said, I want to see something that I can really celebrate about today. And you know what? I was having my coffee and I made cupcakes because my
Mhm.
grandkids were coming over. So apparently that celebration thing was circulating through my mind. And I thought, oh, they're going to love cupcakes. And guess what? I made them, I frosted them, I put them in a cake thing, like you can put your
Mhm.
Yule cupcakes in there. And I
On
had,
a cake table,
yeah,
a cake,
but I mean,
cake
they,
stand.
they couldn't see it.
Oh,
It was funny. They all walked in and said, "We want cupcakes." So apparently they were on the same bandwagon of celebrating. And they were
right.
able to see through a very thick plastic cover that I put over them. So I don't know how they knew there were cupcakes in there. So that was really fun for me. So I decided that I would try it again and be an influencer. And the person
Mhm.
I was with and said, you know what? I'm learning how to set an intention for the day. And so I tried it again. And it really set for me a different tone.
Mhm.
I'm task oriented. I'm kind of disciplined. I'm kind of orderly, but this is different. So, friends, I'm just going to share that Polly gave me a new thought on this, and setting an intention can really be something different to wrap your mind around, which is our next point. Really, is that old dogs can learn new tricks, right, Polly?
That's probably the greatest for our generation, the greatest discovery about the brain. Because I think, and I've said this before in our other talks, it used to be the assumption of our society that when somebody turned 65, much less 85, that they're just headed straight for the rocking chair and the nursing home, and that would be the end of things. And what science has discovered is that the brain is a living, growing thing right up until the day that we make our transition, and that we can literally rewire our brains, especially when we want to create new behaviors and new habits and that sort of thing. And to me, for our generation, that is huge news, because people used to think that, well, somebody who's old doesn't have the capacity, that somehow they're dumber, that they don't have the capacity to learn new things or to try new things. And it's easy to be just hypnotized into that assumption. And it's
Yes.
absolutely not true. It's one of the reasons why I do get up in the morning and I shake myself out and say, today's going to be a really great day. I've had a nasty, nasty chest cold for the past week. And I still had to, there's the worst part about those is that you can't sleep at night because you start coughing and
Right.
then you're awake. And it's just but I would say, all right, so the next little thing I'm going to do is that the next thing I'm going to do is this, and I'm going to celebrate it. And I'm going to go out to the store and get another box of Kleenex. And I went out and got the other box of Kleenex and cough syrup and that sort of thing, which was daunting because we are in a heat wave. But I just said one little step at a time. There, I made it to the drugstore. Good for me. Yay, I'm out of the drugstore. Yay, I'm back home. Good for me.
I
Just
love,
those little tears
I
all
love,
the way along got me through what could have been a really difficult day. In
yes,
fact, I would venture to say that did I not do that, I would have stayed home and I never would have gotten the extra things that I needed. I would have allowed myself to really feel completely overwhelmed
mhm.
by giving myself these little tiny challenges and setting the intention that I'm going to take really good care of myself. and celebrating each little thing that I did do by just acknowledging it, just saying, yes, good for me. I did this, I did that. I got through the day, not a perfect day, not a day where I felt really great, but I didn't feel like a victim as
Right.
much as I would have otherwise.
Right.
Because, just because you're doing tiny habits doesn't immunize you from real life.
Well, and you said how many times, just in that last couple sentences, how many times you cheered yourself on. And so being your own cheerleader can be very helpful when you're trying to find your way through. You reminded me not to, if I'm going to set a large intention, that I probably need to have smaller steps so that I can get there. And then to become that cheerleader for myself, because who else is going to do it, right? There's always
That's the
somebody
truth.
who's going to say, they're not going to give you the encouragement
It's
that
too
you
much.
need. Yeah,
We
yeah,
just go in, we don't even think. We just go into overwhelm. And
yes,
I can tell you on I don't know, like on Monday or Tuesday, no, Sunday, it was Saturday morning. I woke up, I was really pretty sick, and I realized I need to get myself some supplies and so on and so forth. I was starting to get a bit better, but I was running out of Kleenex and all these things. The idea of going to the grocery store was overwhelming. It was overwhelming.
yes,
And
yes,
I had to talk to myself and say, look, all you have to do is you don't have to get dressed up like you're going on stage. You can just put on sunglasses if you want to, fix your hair a little, and just venture out. All you have to do is go down to the car. All you have to do is get over to the store. All you have to do is walk in the door. All you have to do is go to the section where the things are you need. Yay, I did that. I did that. I did that. And I got it done. When I didn't really feel like doing it. So yeah, being your own cheerleader is a way of following through on being intentional. It takes the big picture or the big goal of living your life with intention and puts it down into the smaller little steps that are going to get you to whether it's just going to the drugstore for Kleenex or whether it's starting a whole new venture, learning how to do watercolors, or starting a new venture, becoming a better at reading a couple of chapters in a book every day, or better at exercising. Whatever it is, that's your intention. Breaking it down into these little tiny steps, and then the celebration. That is the magic. That's the magic sauce. It's the secret sauce. It's the
absolutely.
magic spell that
Mhm.
helps you to get through each little step.
Right. So, again, choices that we can make and the strategies and tips that can help you get there that Polly and I are not only sharing with you but we are also implementing ourselves in our own
Oh,
lives.
you have to walk the talk.
Oh my gosh,
Otherwise,
for
we would
sure.
have to have this completely scripted out because we'd be afraid we wouldn't say the right thing.
Oh no.
I mean, a lot of this, we're just literally, we're just winging it. But
Yes.
just as we sort of close this conversation up, I would say that we're looking at the big idea of the importance of living your life with intention, so it's not just all wallpaper, and
Yeah.
then the idea of setting small intentions and becoming your own cheerleader as you do these things, because that's what gives you the magic juice to go ahead and live your life with some zest and to take some little extra steps that maybe you wouldn't have otherwise.
Right.
And for
And
me,
the zest of life is what you want to do. What
right,
what matters to you.
yeah,
And that's why it's
absolutely.
when you do that, it's so much easier to give yourself a pat on the back Or when I met Polly for dinner the other night, she said, "Here's Linda, here's some gold stars. I know it's going to be a little harder for you to get things done, and I want you to really celebrate you as you can and to feel good about the gold stars because you deserved them, you earned them." And so that really, really meant a lot to me to hear that. And I really am trying something new and I'm willing to do it. I don't mind trying something that I think is going to work. And so
Yes,
I know you
right.
teach all kinds of folks in your classes, and now some of the retirement communities are inviting
Mhm.
you in to
Right.
also share these tips with other
Hmm.
seniors so that
Hmm.
they can learn how to live their best life at any stage. Because you
Absolutely.
and I both know that as life progresses, it's possible that we may not be able to do as much, but there are still things we can do, and our brain is still capable,
Of
right?
learning new things, of learning new
Yes.
things. So
Yes.
we may have to change the way we do some things or discover new things, but life can still be very fulfilling. So I just was just showing you these
Oh,
little gold
yes.
stars,
Yes, I have a
and
package of them too. Now, where did I put those darn things?
okay. Hopefully, it's either in your pocketbook or in your kitchen, somewhere where
It's
you
on
actually
my
using them.
desk because this is where I have to get things done that I need to get done. So
Good.
they're
So
on my
I give
desk.
myself gold stars. I One of my practices for staying intentional is I write in my journal every morning. In fact, I make the coffee first. Instead of running, I'm journaling.
Oh,
And
yes, of course.
whenever I do something, like here's a page here, and there's the star right down there, because I accomplished. I forget exactly what. Let's see, what did I do? Oh, I was setting an intention, and I thought that there was a. I was still sick, but I saw that there was a workshop that one of the people I follow was giving that day, and so I watched it and learned some new fancy things.
Good
And
for
I gave
you,
my star
Polly.
because myself a star. So giving yourself little stars, or if nothing else, at least nodding to yourself and saying, yes, I did what I said I was going to do. It's what gives you a sense of satisfaction. It's what bolsters your self esteem. It's what bolsters your self confidence. It's what gives you more zest and more energy for life because everything, even the smallest things, become more meaningful
Yes. And
just by acknowledging that you've done them and that you get a gold star. The
yes,
gold star stands for a lot more than just a little gold star.
yes. And I thought it was interesting that Tony Robbins also said, that mission oriented people, people who have
Mm-hmm.
that mission, it's
Mm-hmm.
better than just trying to manufacture something. But when you
Mm-hmm.
have a mission, or let's move the mission word out of there, and you have a passion for something, like some people
Yeah.
love pets so much that they have pets that they train and then they bring into senior centers so that seniors who used to have pets can love on them and can get the
Mm-hmm.
emotional benefit of that. That's a passion.
Right.
That's when the passion sets the intention and sets the feet in motion. So if
Yeah.
I could give you a strategy, it's find that mission, find that passion that just sets you in
Think of the things
motion.
when you were a little kid. When you're a little kid, what did you really love to do? What were your, I think a lot of us sort of, and the little stars and things, it sounds like, oh, it's like we're kindergartners again. But I think sometimes you need to go back to that place to rekindle and to discover what are the things that you really used to get excited about.
Yes.
Because there's little parts of them, of those goals or those activities that you should bring into your life now
Yes.
because what happens is we get interrupted with all these life responsibilities, raising a family, having a job, a career, and so on and so forth. And those things get shoved aside. I think it's, isn't it former President Bush, who has become a really good painter
Hmm.
now. He's even
Yes.
done art exhibits, you know.
Wow.
Grandma Moses was my age and became a famous artist. Never even started to, I don't think, till she was a grandmother. There's so many people who have started brand new things in their later years. And again, as we said, the brain is there and is willing to learn new things. We just have to start getting in touch with what our passions are and putting that kind of intention to pursue the interesting and passionate things that we really care about in our lives
Yeah, so
and
that
do it in tiny steps.
and that'd be a great thing to start journaling about. What are those things? Get started that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yep.
you got your tiny steps that you can put into place as Polly
Right.
has teaches us. And of course, if you want more instruction on that, you can go to her website. It's thrive hyphen after65.com. And then, of course, I'm teaching people all the time how to live your best life at any stage. When you know strategies that will help you to be able to age in place, to make decisions about how you want to age, and the knowledge and the education that you're going to need, and the professionals
All
you
the
need to talk
practical
to.
details. The
All the
practical
practical
details.
stuff. Yes,
Yes.
that's me.
Yes.
And you
Yeah.
can find my podcast wherever you look for podcasts, Aging in Place, Strategies and Answers. And join us again next month because you know what? We're going to have more to say. Won't we, Polly?
Yes, we will.
And I hope
Thank
you
you.
feel better.
Oh,
Bye.
yeah, I will. All right. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Are you interested in learning more about tiny habits? Look for Polly Lemire at thrive-after65.com. You can learn more about aging in place, strategies, and answers by looking for my podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.